I run into a problem. This video is coming from Canada, and today's date is 5th of March, and as you can see, the virus is still killing at an increased pace. Now 72,271 in the US, and so that's, to establish what the date is here today. And what I'm doing this video about is I've run into a common problem that I'm sure many people have run into by now, and that is finding anything that you can use as a mask. And there's cloth masks out there, all kinds of last-ditch efforts, to prevent a sneezed virus or aerosol virus from getting into your lungs. And like everybody that's tried to do this, tried to find masks, maybe I started a little too late, I don't know, it's like 2 weeks ago, began looking for a mask. And I painted before, so I went to my usual haunts for that, looking for half masks, for all kinds of filters, anything I could get, even paper masks, which of course are gone. Or they're showing up on Amazon or eBay and various other places at overpriced, as overpriced articles. Way out of the affordability of most anyway, if you can even find them. And even those supplies are drying up now. And we're not talking about M95 masks, or N95 masks, sorry, NIOSH 95 standard. We're talking about just basically anything that you can use for a mask. And what I've discovered is I've painted, like I say, and what I've got is about a 20-year-old half mask, which you cannot find on any of the normal places for selling. And this can be adapted to be used as a antiviral mask. And how to do that? I'll show you a list of things that you'll need. Now, some of these things may not even be available for any amount of money. And what I'm talking about are pre-filters. I'm not naming brands because this is not hawking anybody's brands. And so with that, let's go to the kitchen and I will show what you need and how to make these things yourself. Okay. You're going to need tape measure, a pair of socks, and you're going to need pre-filters. Now, these would normally come with a plastic cage that you can put on so that they can be placed over another type of filter that comes with, usually with your painting mask. And these are standard fittings. This is an old one. It's been around for like 20 years or so. It's a chlorine mask. I had to dig around through my possessions to find this. And what it's going to be applied to is half mask, and this is silicone rubber. Fits tightly around your face. These will work where N95 masks won't work, or those paper blue masks that you see won't work as well either, because your air gets in around the sides. Those are called drip masks. They're only good to prevent, like a doctor or surgeon, medical profession, from dripping onto the patient. So they serve a purpose only if you're about 5 feet away, 6 feet away, and somebody sneezes, then that paper mask will stop direct contact with, getting into your lungs. It won't protect your eyes, and it won't protect it if the sneeze is strong enough to go around the edges of the mask. And neither will any dust mask. And even an N95 has limited uses there. So what you actually need is a tight-fitting respirator type mask. And it's going to be hard finding these. These are not just going to be on the store shelves. They're none. And so the idea is you put your N95 filter over your mask, or over your filter rather. And this is called a pre-filter. And like I say, there's no cage that fits around this, and those are hard to find too, because you can, if you have a cage, you can put one of these inside put it on there, put your cage over it, and then fasten it to your mask. So what we have to do is improvise. And the purpose there is, or how we do it, I'm using a meat cleaver because this is a really sharp one, a very good meat cleaver. And what we do, we measure off about 2.5 inches, and then we cut here. And you can do it with any kind of a really sharp knife. I'm just using this because it's convenient. And what you do is you cut off 2.5 inches, roughly, if you're to measure it like that, then you've got your 2.5 inches. And you cut that, and okay, and then I'll show you the next step. So now we've cut this much off of the sock. You don't want to go below the elastic because you need it to be able to fit tightly around your filter, because this is doing two things. It's encapsulating your filter, and you use the yellow side with the printing outward. Now this could be many different brands as long as they all have N95 stamped on them, and that means it'll take out, it's a NIOSH standard, that's the end. 9.5 is the amount of particle that it will exclude, which is 95%. You'll have a colored side, and then you'll have a white side. The white side goes against your filter. You place it like this. Place it on there. Now, the purpose of this, of course, is if you don't have a cage, a plastic cage, which you won't. You're not going to find those anywhere, nowhere in North America or any of the Western world now. Because this same problem we're facing now with shortage of everything is also hitting Australia. It's hitting, the whole English-speaking world, and any Western world as well. And so these supplies are just no longer made, because during normal conditions in a country, this stuff is not produced in enough volume to be readily available when there's an emergency. So improvising is the name of the game here. And this is aimed specifically at people who may, out of economic circumstances, be forced to not break the virus, but they're going to be, or break the lockdowns. What this is going to be is people that by circumstances may have to go back to work whether they want to or not. And in some cases they may even be forced back. So to deal with that, you can't depend on your companies to supply your needed safety equipment. You're going to have to make your own. And this is one of them, if you have some access to this material. So you take the sock top, you place it over your filter, and then you press it, stretch it on as much as you can. You don't want to get the cloth between this portion and your actual filter threading, otherwise it won't seal properly. You'll get air coming in around the sides. Now the cloth on the outside, the sock, this is elasticated, and it serves two purposes. One, it is even a filter on its own around the edges, because this is dense material, and viruses, essentially microbe, are smaller than a bacteria. They're only 1/100th the size of a bacteria. That means this layer will actually stop about 95%, or close to 95%. It'll stop, and this will hold it tight against your filter, which replaces the actions of a plastic cage being put on top. Easy material to find. Like I say, these pre-filters may be difficult. There may be some online sources to find them, but if not, you can make your own. And now the filters themselves that I've used, like I say, this is a 20-year-old chlorine filter. Useless now, like to filter out chlorine, but because of the matrix on the inside, it complements having an N95 filter on the outside. So this becomes viable again, and will be like for some time. And daily usage, if you can get a pack of them, you would use one of these. They can be repeatedly used up to about 5 or 6 times, and you'd have to choose like when you're going to go out and choose carefully how you're going to use them. But they also can be cleaned to a certain extent. You can't soak these in water, that'll destroy them. But you can spritz them with alcohol, which evaporates right away, but it will kill anything that's on the surface. And generally, virus like the M19 or the COVID-19 won't last long on a cloth surface if it's not, kept alive by something, and that usually means a living contact. So these can be sat until that dies, and then it can be spritzed very lightly with alcohol, let the alcohol evaporate, and you can rotate these. And as for how long they're going to last, it just depends on how much moisture they're affected, in the air, like how much moisture there gets onto them. And other than that, there's not much to it. You've cut them, you put them over your filter. You can tuck them in a little bit like that so that the material, like say, doesn't get trapped between your threading and your mask. And then it's just like applying it to any regular half mask. And you put them on. I have 2 of them. And you wear them exactly the same as you would any other mask. But that is a way of utilizing an old filter, and they don't have to be chlorine filters. They can be like any one of the different matrices that have been cleaned. That means you get the paint powder out of it, or you get the drywall powder out of it as much as you can. Your first layer beyond this will be a HEPA filter, and then you're going to have either activated charcoal or another matrix on the inside. But it makes them reusable. These would never be any good for painting again. Once you've cleaned the HEPA filter, do that with a toothbrush. You could never use them for painting again because they'll plug up right away. But for this purpose of filtering out 95% of particulate, it'll work, and they are reusable. But you never want to use water on any aspect of this, or it'll destroy the usefulness of it. So I'm hoping that helps in some way, and if you can add to this material, give a shout back. Thank you.